As always, in this episode, we'll start out by looking at our assignment and whether or not you're doing a project for class or you're doing a commercial project. You want to start with the specs. By way of analogy, if you are designing a billboard, you want to make sure that you know the size of that billboard. So whatever the project is, you need to know the specs, and we'll be putting a lot of emphasis on that throughout. So I'm focused on the assignment, and I've highlighted the elements of the assignment that are related specifically to choosing and preparing and embedding images properly in a web page. And we could do a whole movie about this. We could do a whole book about it, but we're going to focus on some of the key essentials. And what we're trying to do is come up with a background image with text on top, something that I'm seeing increasingly in page banners. At least one image has to be 800 pixels wide. At least one of the other images has to be a right-aligned 320 pixel wide image. All the images have to be linked to full-sized versions of the images that open in a new browser tab, and where we prompt the user that this is a zoomable image by providing a zoom icon when a user hovers over the image. We're going to be using the HTML5 picture and figcaption tags, and we're going to be respecting proper permission protocols. So for starters, I have set up in my code editor a basic template, and I'm not going to go over this in a lot of detail because there's nothing or very little that you haven't already seen. Let's take a look at how this looks in a browser. So I've got basically placeholder text, including placeholder text at the top that's going to be displayed on top of a background image. And my particular project here is focused on the neighborhood around the Brooklyn Bridge. So that's where I'm going to be composing my narrative, but we're going to set the narrative aside for now because you already know how to write a narrative. I'm going to be showing you how to handle images properly. So the next stop on our journey is to go and acquire proper images. Now there's a lot of ways you can look for images. Google, do your own research onto how to properly acquire images. If they're your own images, and they might be, then everything I discuss is going to be applicable, except that there are no permission issues. So the first image I'm looking for is something that will be a nice background for a banner on my page. And I'm looking through the images here at Wikipedia, which is a great source of Creative Commons images, that is, images that you can use freely, no charge, and they provide very helpful really copy and paste content where attribution is required. So I'm going to take a look at this image. This looks like something that would be really nice for my my banner background. Let me see what the deal is on it. So when I click on it in Wikipedia, I will be coming to this more details button in a moment, but I want to take a brief stop before we get there and note that when we first got to this image, when I hover over it, the zoom in cursor displays, and we will be coming back to that as well. So let me next, though, take a look at the details in this image. First of all, good news. It's public domain, which means it's free to use. And I'm going to trust that Wikipedia has properly verified that. And I'm just looking to see that the copyright holder has released this to the public domain, and that anyone can use it for any purpose without any conditions, unless such conditions are required by law, which at this point I don't think they are. Now I'm looking next, and I'm going to zoom in a little here because I want you to see these details. There are a number of different size options. I want an image that's large enough to display in high quality, but not so large that it requires unnecessary download time. Because I'm using this as a banner image, and because I made a calculated decision that I think users, even if the page takes a half second or so to load, will be willing to put up with that, I'm going to go with the highest resolution of this. So I'm going to right click on this and save the link as, and then organize everything into the file where I'm keeping my course content on my desktop. So I keep everything in one folder just to keep things simple. And I'm going to, I think I probably have everything I need here. So this is my file. This is the file that I want to use as my page background, or as the background for my page banner. So I'm going to save that, and 1 down and 2 to go. Next, I need to look for a large image that will look good at 800 pixels wide. And let me take a look at this one. This is an interesting photo. Let me take a look at the details. I'm seeing that this is Creative Commons as well, which means I have to look at the requirements, but in general, it's free to use. 1024 pixels is a little larger than what I need for an 800 pixel display, but not too much larger, so I'm going to download that. And again, save it to my same folder. And you'll notice that the file name comes with the image width, 1024 pixels. That's a very standard convention, something you might want to use when you're preparing multiple versions of your photos for use on the web. So that's my second image, and it's a view of the Brooklyn Bridge from Manhattan. I want to hang on to that content. So I'm going to actually stash it in Notepad, in a Notepad, just for a moment, because I will need that later on. I want to just document the content of the images that I'm getting here. And finally, I'm looking for an image that will display well in a fairly small box, 320 pixels wide. In general, I avoid portrait-sized images. I know, phones are portrait, not landscape. That is, they're higher than portrait, higher than it is wide. And so are phones, but people are used to looking at images in digital display that are landscape in layout. So let me look for something that's landscape. That view from the FDR drive might work. I think I'm going to go with that. And I'm going to, again, look at the details. Going to copy the caption information so that I remember what this is an image of, keeping a little record here. And let me take a look at what sizes are available. Remember, for this one, I only want a 320 pixel wide image, but I'm also required by the specs to open a larger image if someone clicks on this. So that's going to be a little bit trickier than what we've done so far. I'm going to save this image as the 320 pixel wide version of the image. And then I'm going to save the full size version. And that one didn't come with a dimension, so I'm going to add that so I can keep track of which is the large one. So now I've acquired my images, and I have made some notes about them. And again, there's a lot to discuss in terms of, we discussed some things in the lecture. There's a lot to research in terms of what images you can and can't use. but Wikimedia Commons is a reliable, if not exhaustive, resource for images that you can use without any permission issues. So now it's time to go back to my code and start one by one to put together the different image elements of this project. Now, one thing that I do want to point out that's a little bit new in CSS is that I've defined a separate style for the body element and the main element. So I've made the body element expand so that it will fill the entire width of the page, whereas the main element only covers the middle 800 pixels of the page. And we can go back and take a look at how that works out. You can see that the main content here stays inside an 800 pixel box to make it more readable, whereas the body tag is wider. And so I have my banner, which is a class style, and that class style is called banner. And just to kind of speed things along, I put the code together for that banner here, and I'm going to paste it in and explain it. So the syntax for a background image is what you see here. It's background image :URL and then a path to a file inside quotation marks. And you can get that at W3 Schools as with any other syntax. Let's just jump over there and demonstrate that, and then I'll get back to my coder. So go to w3schools.com and background image. And if I wanted to grab that style, here it is. And then the file name for the image. So let's get back to the coder. I've applied that. I've just left the file name blank. Now, also in this banner, I have defined a height, 200 pixels high, and I'm going to use that to display only the top 200 pixels of the image that I selected. So our next move is to insert the image that I saved, and I'm going to go into my file manager, Finder in this case, find the, these file names are awfully similar. Could have been a little more careful about that. See, I think I actually can just go by the times that I downloaded these. And the first one that I downloaded was the panorama. So this looks like the file that I want. We'll soon find out if I got that right. And I'm going to copy that file name into my code. And like a lot of nice code editors, at least it's verifying with color coding that I didn't mess up on the syntax. Let's see what that happens when I refresh. So that is the image I wanted. The top of the bridge is not that impressive, so I'm going to tweak this a little bit. First of all, I'm going to expand the width, and let's see, let's go at least 1200. And let's maybe double the height to 400. and see if that's a little more impressive banner. Well, it's maybe. It's something I might want to come back to and tweak. I might want to crop the image. I want to make some other changes. But for now, it satisfies the technical requirements, so let's move on. The next stop is to insert a large 800 pixel image, and we had some other requirements for that, but we'll get to them. Let's get the image inserted first. So that is, oh, hold on a sec, not so fast. The requirement here was that we use the picture and the fig caption elements in CSS3, or HTML5 rather. So here's the syntax from our friends at W3 Schools for a figure and a fig caption, and of course we'll be replacing theirs. The figure caption, fig caption, is kind of self-intuitive, and I copied text that I wanted to use for that. And next, I need to insert the image. And so let me get the proper file name, again from Finder in my case, since I'm on a Mac. And here is the large version. So let me copy that file name. So that's the image, and then there's the figure caption, and let's see how all this plays out. Refresh. And here's the image. It's too wide, so I'm going to use HTML to define the width. This is better done with CSS, but it's also appropriate to do it with HTML. Let's see how that looks. So now the width looks good and the caption's placed properly. Just taking a look at this and thinking, is there something else I want to do? I also want to double check the specs for this. Yeah, 800 pixels wide. Okay, so that's part of the assignment here, but the other assignment is to link all the images to a full-sized version in a new browser tab. So to do that, I'm going to just enclose all this in a link, ahref equals, and here we want the image itself, and then I want the target to open up in a new browser window or tab. And I want the cursor, and you can look this up yourself in W3 Schools, but to display the cursor as a magnifying glass, we do it as cursor zoom in, and that's going to be a style that I apply here. So all of that defines the link, and then the image goes inside the open and close link tags, and let's see how that works. So I'll refresh now. I'll hover over this. I get my magnifying glass, my zoom in cursor. When a user clicks on it, they go to this page. It opens in a new browser tab. They see the image full size and they can close it. So I have one more image to add, and that is my smaller one. And for that, I'm not going to download the full-size image because that's just a waste of space, a waste of bandwidth. If a user doesn't want to see the full-sized image, I don't want to subject them to that. So I always emphasize, and I've gotten comments from a number of you that entering code instead of copying and pasting is a better way to learn. So let me refresh my skills and see if I can get the picture element and the fig caption element right, and I'll see how I can do on getting the image. So this time I'm going to start with the link ahref equals, and I often use xxx as a placeholder, and that's going to open in a new browser tab. And the style is going to be cursor zoom in. So that's going to open the link, and then inside the link, I'm going to have my image. And I'll go get that file name. So here I want the 320 pixel version. I don't think I'm going to learn anything by trying to type this file name. I think I'll learn just as much by copying and pasting it. So I've got my image defined now, but I also want to do the width. When you do the width, you don't need to do the height. Because, why? Because browsers automatically adjust height to match width. Now I can add the link here. This is going to open the larger version of this file. So let me track that down. And here's the larger version. Oops, I didn't actually mean to open the whole file, but there it is. And I'll put that here. And I want to, all right, I got the target blank. Okay, then there's the figure caption that I stashed in my notes. Indenting doesn't really do anything. All right, let's see how the pictures all fit together now. So I need to preview this in, yeah, I'm using Firefox to preview, I think. Did I have that somewhere? Well, I'll open this in a browser. So here's my banner. Here's my smaller image. And, oh, the one thing I didn't do on this one, it does open in a new browser tab, full size. Users don't have to wait for it to download, but what I didn't do is float it right. So I've got to go back to my code and add one bit of, I can either do this with an inline style on the picture tag here or a class style. I'm going to do it with a class style. Align right. And then I'm going to go up to my CSS and create a class style called align right. This way, if I have multiple images or I want to change the way this works, so I'm going to float it right. I'm going to have a width of maybe 340 pixels. I'm going to have padding of maybe 10 pixels. I'm going to have a margin to keep it from bumping into the text of 5 pixels. I'm going to put a little border on it. What color is my background color again? Gray. All right, let's save that and see what that did to the image. So that moved it over pretty nicely, makes a kind of nice display. One thing that you do have to be aware of is that this is going to change depending on how someone's viewing your content, but I think that's probably a pretty decent look for what we're going for here. Might actually want to make sure that I've got enough content here to place that nicely. So I'm just going to add another paragraph of narrative in this case, and now the image is a little bit more floating within the file. So let's step back and look at this from a user experience point of view. They're getting a banner. I'm not wild about it aesthetically. I might actually, probably in real life would go look for something a little better. This is okay. People can see the full-size one. It's got an appropriate caption. This one's okay. The zoom in is even more effective here. So I fulfilled the basic requirements, and now in real life I'd spend a couple more hours tweaking, of course, substituting the placeholder and ipsum lorem text with the real thing, writing about the neighborhood I've selected. But I think we've got the basics, and you can take it from here.